Batman and Robin 23.3, aka Ra's al Ghul and the League of Assassins, written by James Tynion IV, art by Jeremy Hawn. So we open up in 1285 with a bunch of knights and crusades and whatnot storming across the desert, and we see it's told from the perspective of the prince who is leading the charge. He approaches this dark tower saying a demon lives inside of it, and he pounds on the door saying like, "Oh, I am leading this crusade in the name of the Pope. You will open your door." And this white-haired man opens up and he's like, "Oh, hello, my master's been expecting you." And he's like, "What? How did you can speak our language?" And he's like, yes, I can. I speak a lot of languages. Anyway, come on inside. And all the crusaders come inside and just like, "We hear that a demon is living in this place." And he's like, "Well, he is many things after all." And he leads these crusaders deep down into the ground of this tower. And one by one, each of the crusaders is killed silently from behind until finally it's just the prince left. And as he enters the room, the servant closes the door behind him. The prince pounds on the door and he's just like, "Oh God, oh geez, this can't be happening." And he sees Ra's al Ghul emerging from a Lazarus pit. And he's just like, "Ah, hello, how's it going?" And he's like, "Are you a demon or a man?" He's like, "Both and neither. I'm Ra's al Ghul, bitch." So then we flash forward to now. Ra's is being approached by a random nobody who is representing the secret society. And he's like, "That story about the dude from the Crusades, you let him live in order to spread your legend to the West. But that was the first time that you have had any like real noting. So you're at least that old. Secret Society super duper wants you to be invested in them, man. Like they're sending all these people. They want you to help you achieve your goals." And Roz is like, "You think that you can help me? You think that anybody can help me? Let's see about that." And he sicks some man bats on the goons that the Secret Society sent, leaving only this one guy left over. And he's just like, whoa, dude, we're coming here with an offer to help you. And he's just like, "Yeah, okay, whatever, enough. Let us sword fight." And he's just like, "Well, you picked my thing," because apparently this villain is sword fighting. That's his thing. And he's like, "Well, I know all about your history, Roz. I've studied you intently." And he says, "Yes, you are a great one. You have this great legend. You learned all these secret arts of death, and you mastered them over the centuries. You found the Lazarus pits via the Well of Sins. And you, over time, gathered a bunch of disciples who learned in the same arts as you in death. And over time, you guided them and changed them into becoming the League of Assassins that gave them a purpose." And we see throughout the centuries, he makes his decision to change the world as he sees fit. We see that he's responsible for getting the Opium War started. We see that he gets cholera sent to America. We see that he's responsible for training the man who shot the Archduke Ferdinand. So all of this is because of him. He's been guiding the world secretly in the shadows for centuries. And the sword guy is saying like, "Ah, yes, however, you have been pushing so hard for destruction, for a finer world or whatnot. There's only so much that you've actually been able to accomplish. And I mean, even more recently than that, your daughter has been killed." And Roz is like, "Okay, watch what you're talking about now." And this whole time they're sword fighting, by the way. And just like, "Oh yes, your final chapter thus far has been you wanted to leave a legacy behind. What happens when you do finally achieve the perfect world and you get it to how you want it to be? But you didn't count on Batman." And Roz is like, "Shut your mouth, bro." And he's like, "Yes, you thought you found the perfect groom for your daughter, and you sword fought shirtless with him for some reason. But then he decided to stop you. He always stopped your plans. You never realized that by seeking him out, you set your own downfall in motion." And we see all the different times that Batman interrupted Roz's plans and got in the way. But then we see that, no, Damian was still a thing. And then Talia started her own plans for Batman Incorporated. And then it ended with Talia being killed. And the sword fighter guy points out, like, "Yes, you have lost everything. Everything has been taken from you because of Batman." And he's just like, "I'm sorry, you said you were coming here to try to get me to join you, and you've been like a super dick this whole time." And he's like, "Well, I was just getting to my point. the secret society, we've killed Batman. He's dead. He no longer stands in your way. So we just want to help you along now that the one thing that's always stopped you is finally gone. And he knocks down the sword fighter and he's like, you idiot. And he starts laughing at him. And he's like, you think that death is enough to stop Batman? If there's one thing I know about Batman, he is as determined and stubborn to not die as I am. So you bet your bottom dollar he is still alive and he will destroy you guys. So in order to be formal about this, I reject your invitation. And so the sword fighter guy apparently also has electricity powers. Sure, he goes to fire at Roz. One of his goons jumps in the way, and he's like, oh, you're constantly hiding behind other people, Roz, and no one's here to defend you now. And then all of a sudden, 2 harpoons come out of the wall and string this guy up against the side of the building. And he's like, all right, let me tell you something straight up here, sword guy. You didn't find me. You didn't track me down. I led you to me. And the whole reason why is because I know that your masters are cowards. They wouldn't dare come face me themselves lest they would die on their own right. So they sent you here as a human sacrifice to try to appease me. So yeah, I'm going to kill you now, and I am going to stand by the sidelines just to see what new world your masters bring. But just know that I play the much, much longer game. And no matter what they have in store, I will be the one that decides how things end. So, yeah, that's how it ends. And then it says, look forward to Red Hood and the Outlaws, which I don't think is a sentence that has ever been uttered in the history of mankind, but regardless, they say it here. So, I like it. I've always been interested in Ra's al Ghul. I never did go back and read, like, the Head of the Demon stuff, or, like, where he and Talia originally hooked up. He being Batman. I understand pronouns are an issue here. But I've always been interested in him because he is one of those villains that doesn't feel as crazy, you know. He's much more on the intellectual equal as Batman. And obviously the idea that he's immortal is equally as interesting. So I am down with this idea of, you know, Ra's is a master planner. He has this idea of how he wants the world to go, and he has all the time in the world to make it happen. So I think this issue does a very good job at showing that. Overall, I'm going to give this one a 7.5. It's very good. I think the biggest downfall is the fact that they say check out Red Hood for more. No one's going to do that, guys. Don't try to push you over there. So yeah, it's a solid issue in its own right though. So 7.5 feels right.